Hello there! With The Sims 4 now about to have 16 expansion packs available to buy, I figured now would be a great time to showcase the best 3 expansion packs solely for gameplay expansions on a day-to-day basis in The Sims 4. Before we get into it, I wanted to mention that The Sims 4 at least used to have a build a bundle feature. I can't access that anymore as I have everything myself, but the feature allows you to pick one stuff pack, one game pack, and one expansion pack for about $40 to $50 USD, with the newest pack of each of those categories being excluded from the bundle option. It is how I personally got most of my packs, and I'll be doing a series of the best 3 of each of those categories because of said bundle. Alright, with that being said, the expansion that you get the most dynamic usability from right out of the gate is Seasons, which should come as no surprise as many simmers recommend this pack. The first thing you'll notice with this pack is that you now have various types of weather, like sunny, rainy, thunderstorms, snowy, hailing, cloudy, and even an unpredictable weather, where the weather will randomly change or snap from moment to moment. The weather system itself really does add to that sense of realism and storytelling. In a way, it kind of reminds me a bit of watching Sims videos when I was younger and seeing them change their mind on what to do if a rainstorm happened outside out of nowhere. My favorite part of that system, though, is that each town in The Sims 4 has its own distinctive weather cycle. For instance, you won't see snow in Oasis Springs, and if you have island living, you'll encounter monsoons, which in my opinion just increases that kind of vibe that adds to my everyday Sims gameplay. On top of the weather system, it also added in the temperature gauge for your Sims, which can result in death from being too hot or too cold. And in certain temperatures and seasons, things like fishing in certain neighborhoods become unavailable. Of course, swimming or being in freezing rain is also not the best for the health of your Sims. The thermostat is a key gameplay mechanic within this system, allowing you to set it to be hotter or cooler or even just off. If it's set to be hotter when it's hot outside, it will make your bills cheaper, while if it's cooler, that would just increase your bills. This also adds into that realism aspect of the pack, as I've mentioned, but it also allows for a bit of interesting gameplay if you're doing something like an Eras gameplay or something where you're kind of like from the ground up before modern technology. Since a cabin in the woods in winter would be a lot colder without a thermostat to warm you up. A cool bit of cross-pack compatibility with the thermostat itself is, as of the For Rent base game update, all radiators and AC units that you have from other packs, like the Vampires pack for instance, can be set to sync up to your thermostat to help warm individual rooms even faster or just more effectively. But that's not all that came in with Seasons. This pack introduced the calendar and holiday system that many packs have expanded upon and also made use of, allowing for essentially Christmas, New Year's Eve, Valentine's Day, and Thanksgiving to happen in your Sims game. You can edit these holidays as you see fit, or even add in custom ones, as well as some decorations associated with those holidays I had mentioned, like a Christmas tree. The big feature really of Seasons is that it was the first overhaul to the gardening system. Now plants can all be in season or out of season, which in my opinion is great for that sense of realism and just day-to-day Sims gameplay. You can bypass this system by having plants be indoors or covered by some building edges to get the game to register it as being like a covered or sheltered plant. You can also get a personal kind of occult plant helper in the form of Patchy, the living scarecrow, if you grow friendship with him. And it also added in gardening skill self-employment types of careers, such as the flower arranging system and the flower arrangement skill. So overall, in my opinion, Seasons is hands down one of the best expansions you can get if you're only able to grab a few. And there are a few things in this pack that I didn't even mention. The next expansion on this list might be a bit of a surprise to some of you, and that is a Growing Together. Growing Together is the first expansion pack in this list that includes a new world, that being San Sequoia, which is a nice kind of inner city with some suburbs kind of town. Personally, it is the best town to live in if you're wanting to focus on family gameplay or having several kids. Since the world itself has 2 neighborhoods, with a bit of a park equipment usable regardless of the lot you're on, one of those neighborhoods has a pirate ship park for kids to play on with some monkey bars. The other neighborhood has a miniature kind of water park set up for kids. This leads into the main reason as to why we even have this pack of all packs is really a standout if you want family gameplay. And gameplay in general is that with The Sims 4 it's very sandboxy. So this is a definitive pack if you want to be a little bit less sandboxy. The new social compatibility feature really redefines how The Sims 4 works in live mode. The social compatibility system is accessible through Sims likes and dislikes. The Sims characteristics section includes things like ambitionless Sims, argumentative Sims, idealist Sims, and so on. An idealist Sim, for instance, is someone who has traits such as creative, alt lover, or music lover. If you don't preset any of these preferences for your Sims, then in the game, as they're talking or interacting with random Sims, they'll get what the game calls a self-discovery moment, which is an improvement of the autonomous likes and dislikes pop-ups that came with the Dream Home Decorator pack. When it happens, it will ask you if that Sim now likes or dislikes, say, idealist Sims, based on their interactions with the Sim or multiple Sims who have those traits. Now, where this gets interesting is when your Sim has acquired a few characteristic likes and dislikes and then goes out into the world, they'll start behaving differently with other Sims based on those traits if they happen to fall in line. For example, if my Sim likes idealist Sims and she goes to a museum and happens to encounter a Sim with the alt lover trait, she will automatically start having friendly conversations with that Sim and they'll get a boost to their relationship gains. At the same time, if she disliked those kinds of Sims, then more mean-spirited interactions would autonomously form between them and they'd have a harder time building positive relationships. There are a couple different levels of compatibility that your Sim can have with other Sims, including a completely neutral level. This is viewable in the relationship panel. If you hover over a Sim's face, it would tell you the compatibility between them. It is also showcased with a puzzle icon of sorts, depending on how compatible they are. Other Sims' preferences will also affect the compatibility. If you're an animal level Sim, for instance, who likes idealist Sims, just because you meet an idealist Sim, it doesn't mean you have amazing compatibility, as that Sim might dislike animal lovers. The system works with all Sims in the game who are children and older, which will honestly just improve how alive your Sims game feels if you play in live mode for very long. Another feature that I had mentioned previously that comes with this pack is the self-discoveries feature itself. This allows you for not only Sim characteristics, but it will also allow you to change your traits or receive bonus traits. I believe you can get 2 to 3 bonus traits through this system, allowing a Sim to have a total of 6 cast traits, even though you may only pick 3 manually. These traits can change, such as slob and neat, where if say you start off as a slob, but had that Sim clean up a lot, over time the game will realize that you've changed how that Sim normally behaves, and wants to know if that Sim should have a self-discovery to be neat now instead of a slob, which allows for even more nuanced gameplay and some direction that you could take each Sim's story with on the fly. Especially with, as I mentioned before, The Sims 4 is a very sandboxy game in general, so this kind of adds more spontaneity into your gameplay. Another really big feature overall is the new family dynamic system. This system further defines how Sims interact with each other, specifically family members. They don't even have to live in the same household, they just need to be a part of that family, or at least from my own experience. One of my Sims had a pop-up where I asked if their grandma should have a strict dynamic with them, with the possible dynamics being close, difficult, distant, jokesters, permissive, strict, and supportive. These dynamics also determine what kind of sentiments are more likely to form between these Sims, with sentiments being long-lasting moodlets that dictate how Sims feel about one another and were first introduced in Snowy Escape, and they have since been expanded upon since that release with almost every pack. Not all of those 7 dynamics are available in every family situation, and they do change how they function between different situations. Like a close relationship dynamic is a different beast when it comes to spouses versus a close relationship with a parent and a child. I find the system to be a really cool addition personally. If I'm playing the wife of a family, I'll randomly have interactions queue up, or her husband will come up to her and kiss her on the cheek or give her a hug before going off to do what he was going to do. And then they have a close dynamic overall of that. Their kids sometimes get into fights because they're difficult with each other, and one of the kids even has a jokester dynamic with their sibling, which I hear is the most common to form for most people, but those two are always playing pranks or just laughing together. Then you take my child who has a strict grandma, and they always kind of cancel their own interactions that want them to make a mess, at least in my game, when she's around. She'll also discipline them on her own when they make messes and the like, which I know the disciplining system itself came with the Parented Pack, so it's kind of a bit of cross gameplay, but it's still cool how that all plays together. The pack also includes things like kids' bikes and a treehouse item, which I personally love. You can have Sims, child and up, work together to build the treehouse, and then pretty much all Sims, child, adult, teenager, what have you, can play in the treehouse, have a good time. Arguably, though, my most used item in the pack itself are the keepsake boxes. These boxes are things that elders hold on to, and they're basically like a miniature trunk to store a variety of items into it. The elder Sim then chooses a descendant that they can pass on their family treasures to. I almost always have at least one occult Sim in my rotational gameplay, and with spellcasters specifically, this keepsake box adds a lot of gameplay for me, as I'll have my kids be dormant bloodline spellcasters who inherit their grandparents' wand and familiar. With that out of the way, I feel like the reason most people do or do not end up going to buy this pack is because of infants. Yes, infants were added into the base game, but a lot of the items are locked behind this pack for them. If you want changing tables, be it traditional on the ground, or one that mounts into the wall, which I personally add into every community lot bathroom, then you have to have this pack for it. Oh, would you like a special kind of like pack and play mat with a mobile for your infant to lie under and play with? You need the pack. Which I'm not 100% sure if you also need this pack to add mobiles into cribs via a handiness upgrade, but I'm pretty sure you do. Either way, it's a lot of stuff for infants and toddlers that so far is locked to only this pack. Personally, for me, the amount of gameplay this pack brings in terms of Sims interacting with each other and improving the liveliness all around, not just for your family members, but also its towns and neighborhoods, really makes this pack non-negotiable for me when it comes to gameplay. There are a lot of things this pack has to offer that I've not even touched on, such as midlife crises, getting fired from your work at random, having a work rival relationship randomly thrust upon you, childhood confidence levels based on how they're treated in their various child stages, stayover events. You can even have like your Sim's boyfriend or girlfriend randomly be like, hey, can I come stay the night with you? You can invite them to stay for a couple days. I once even had Lilith of a Tour, who I met once at a bandwagon event, ask if she and her brother can come live with me for a while. So it's kind of crazy but kind of funny. And there's also some other things such as milestones that are added in that pack as well. I do feel like it's important to mention that with the brand new Lovestruck expansion, it takes the systems of compatibility and family dynamics that Growing Together added and applies them specifically to the lens of dating and romance. But in Growing Together, as long as your Sims are married, they can still get that dynamic system to a degree. So part of that gameplay for a close relationship is going to be present with this pack. So you don't really even need Lovestruck if you want like a basic bit of this kind of gameplay, if that makes sense. Like it kind of covers all the bases. Now on to the third one in this list. A lot of you are probably going to assume it would be like a get together or get to work, but it's actually cottage living. Cottage living completely revolutionizes gameplay with a lot challenge, simple living. This makes it to where a lot can no longer just spend money to make food. Now you have to physically have the ingredients in order to cook. I use this on every residential lot I have. I would not recommend applying it to community lots though. You can get these ingredients by gardening, farming, or shopping. Most of the time I usually just click on my phone, hit home, and then select order delivery. Grocery delivery is an option for 20 simoleons, plus the cost of whatever items you buy. Shortly after ordering, a delivery person will come to you with a grocery bag at your door. You have to physically click on them and hit accept delivery. They'll stick around wanting a tip for about 5 to 10 simoleons, but if your Sims are poor or you're playing a Sim that just really is against tipping culture or wants to be kind of a snob or however you want to phrase it, you can talk to them for a second and then just ask them to leave. The other ways to buy groceries though is to either go to the stalls in Henford on Bagley's town area, or if you're in the town area of Chestnut Ridge from Horse Ranch, there is a clickable grocery store rabbit hole that you can use. When it comes to farming, you'll get milk from cows, eggs from chickens, or you can trade them as well, I believe, with llamas to butcher in exchange for like red and white meat. If you want to do a more vegan approach to things, you can collect mushrooms from gardening and use a brand new canning feature in order to make a meat substitute. Canning is also a great way to conserve your resources. For instance, a mushroom can be canned into a thing of mushroom conserve, which yields about like 4 jars. So now you can use that same mushroom 4 different times in cooking instead of just the once. They can also be sold for quite a bit of money compared to just one mushroom, and they last much longer to often like unlimited expiration on those dates. Strangely enough though, the only way to get mighty plant milk is to get a special treat item and feed it to your cow before milking them. So unless you use mods that allow you to make a cow plant instead, you can't acquire your own plant milk without having a cow. It's also worth a mention that if you have the Home Chef Hustle stuff pack, you will need to make sure you uncheck the box of using prepped ingredients. Otherwise, you can only cook things if you've pre-prepped them. But if you do have prepped ingredients, of course, you can keep that box checked and it saves you even more resources. This pack also features one of the more unique worlds in terms of it being more rural and naturey throughout the entire world, whereas most towns are more suburban to city. If nature in general is your thing, this pack you'll be able to also place bird trees and rabbit stumps around the worlds. If you place at least one in every neighborhood, it will tell your game that this animal lives here, and you have a chance to see rabbits or birds randomly in any of the lots in that neighborhood. These animals both can help you with gardening if you've befriended them. Rabbits will eat away at weeds, birds will keep insects away. Depending on how you feel about rabbit unaliving, I would steer clear though the wild fox's lot challenge. Personally, I like the realism, and it increases my want to set up anti-fox mechanisms or have dogs and llamas at the ready to get rid of them. The wild foxes will sometimes attack and eat the wild rabbits. Pretty much everything about this pack, though, lends itself perfectly to a more period or eras kind of gameplay like I mentioned earlier, especially if you're playing in a more fantasy and medieval-like setting. Even the fairs where you show off your animals or produce fit into that vibe, but it also adds just a lot of realism and nuance with that simple living lot challenge, as well as giving the game an option to be kind of like Harvest Moon or Stardew Valley, which are amazing games. I mean, I assume Stardew is, I've not played it, but Harvest Moon is for sure, but I digress. Also, it's worth a mention that NPCs in Henford will give you quests and rewards for helping them with those quests and doing various things around the town, which is kind of unique to Henford itself. It also has an astounding amount of cross-pack gameplay, but as this video is mainly talking about expansion packs themselves, I'm trying my best not to hype up the cross-pack features of them all. I will say though that if you have Snowy Escape and you have the Simple Living Challenge on, you will not be able to use the Hot Pot item without a mod until EA fixes it, which honestly the Love Strike pre-patch might have done, but it's super easy either way to turn the challenge on or off when you want to use that item. But now, let's move on to a couple quick honorable mentions. Honestly, past the main 3, just about any expansion pack could be great to pick up and grab or just have, depending on what features or gameplay you might want, but I'll quickly touch on some honorable mentions that I personally think you all would enjoy. First up is cats and dogs. I feel like I don't need to say much about it other than the fact that it simply adds in cats and dogs as members of your Sims family, which for many people like myself who can't imagine life without their animals, giving them to our Sims as well just kind of sells itself. Plus, if you have the additional notorious Bust the Dust Kit, the Roomba item from this pack will suck up and clean all dust bunnies for you on the floor, which is very satisfying to watch. Secondly, my personal favorite of these 3, Snowy Escape. I won't lie to you all, I'm a bit of a weeb, so this is probably a slight bias for my love of Japanese things. However, it is a phenomenal pack for gameplay and dates, be it the hot pot item that I discussed earlier as a great way to get family together and eat, or the option to go on hikes and walks around the world, which can pop up some nature spirits, bugs, or just be a pleasant experience. These walks are really cool to watch, and greatly boost the relationships and the closeness of the group who walks with them together. I am constantly coming back to Mount Komorebi to walk on these trails, with my Sims family members after they move out, plus rock climbing the mountain is kind of cool. Lastly in the honorable mentions is Get Together. Get Together is great not only because it has the largest world and number of lots to date in The Sims 4 per world, but its feature to create and organize your own clubs is just phenomenal. I'll usually make clubs for spellcaster orders, my own werewolf pack, or what I imagine most of you get use out of, family grouping. I will often add in a sibling who's moved out, or the grandparents into a group with some family I'm actively playing, or just call the group or groups if it's a big family to the area, and then we'll say go on the walk together in Mount Carmel Rebbe that I talked about a moment ago with a massive group of us to just kind of get that huge bond going. If you stuck around to the end of the video, then I want to say a huge thank you. I plan to release similar videos to this, but over game packs and stuff packs that are the best for your gameplay. In the meantime, what would be your 3 top expansion packs and why?